You are holding a secret that baffled humanity for thousands of years. It is a solid that acts like a liquid, a transparent window into the world, and a material so strange that scientists still debate its exact state of matter. Glass. We look through it every single day, but have you ever wondered how we actually figured out how to make it? It wasn't a flash of genius by a single inventor in a lab coat. It was a chaotic accident born from fire, sand, and a lucky mistake in the ancient world. To understand glass, we have to go back to the cradle of civilization. We are talking about Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt, roughly 3500 BC. Early humans were master potters. They were already glazing their ceramics to make them waterproof and shiny. This involved firing a mixture of sand, soda, and lime at extreme temperatures. But one day, something went wrong. Or, more accurately, something went very right. A furnace fire burned hotter than usual. The intense heat fused the sand and the minerals together into a glowing, molten lump. When it cooled, it wasn't a clay pot. It was a hard, translucent, brittle substance. The first man-made glass was born. The Romans had a legend about this. The historian Pliny the Elder wrote that Phoenician merchants were cooking a meal on a beach in Syria. They couldn't find stones to prop up their cooking pots, so they grabbed blocks of natron, a natural salt, from their ship. They placed these blocks in the fire. In the morning, they discovered streams of a strange, transparent liquid flowing out from the ashes. Historians think Pliny's story is likely a myth, but it captures the spirit of the discovery. Glass is essentially just sand melted into a new form. Pure silica sand melts at roughly 3,100 degrees Fahrenheit. That is incredibly hot. Ancient furnaces couldn't hit that mark, so they added soda ash to lower the melting point. For the first 1,000 years, glass was a luxury item for the elite. It was opaque, colorful, and used primarily for beads, amulets, and small perfume bottles. It was expensive, rare, and considered a semi-precious stone. Then, around the 1st century BC, a revolution hit the workshops of the Levant. A craftsman did something that changed the trajectory of human history. He took a hollow metal pipe, dipped one end into a glob of molten glass, and blew. Glass blowing. It sounds simple, but it was a total game changer. Suddenly, you could create thin, hollow, uniform vessels in minutes rather than hours. This transformed glass from a precious trinket into a practical tool. You could store wine, oil, and medicine. You could see exactly what was inside. The Romans went wild for it. They brought glass blowing to the corners of their empire, from Britain to the edges of the Sahara. They began adding manganese to the mix, which acted as a decolorizer. Suddenly, clear glass became possible. Imagine living in a world where you had never seen through a wall. Romans started installing glass panes in their villas. Light flooded into dark rooms. It was the birth of the window. But after the fall of Rome, the secrets of glassmaking almost vanished in the West. It retreated into the darkness of the Middle Ages. Meanwhile, in the Islamic world, glassmaking flourished. Scientists like Al-Razi and Al-Haytham were mastering the chemistry of glass. They created pure, crystal-clear glass for lenses. They were the ones who realized that if you curve a piece of glass just right, you can bend light. They weren't just making cups, they were laying the groundwork for the telescope, the microscope, and the spectacles you might be wearing right now. By the 13th century, the epicenter of glass production moved to Venice. The glassmakers of Murano were treated like royalty, but they were also prisoners. The Venetian government feared their trade secrets would leak out. They were forbidden from leaving the island under threat of death. They spent their lives in specialized factories, turning sand into magic, creating the famous Venetian crystal that became the envy of the world. Then came the Enlightenment. Science demanded better glass. We needed lenses to look at the moons of Jupiter and the bacteria in a drop of pond water. We started engineering glass for its properties, not just its beauty. We learned to make it stronger, flatter, and more resistant to heat. Today, we take glass for granted. Your smartphone screen is a miracle of modern engineering, a glass-ceramic hybrid that can withstand drops and scratches. We use fiber optic cables made of ultra-pure glass to send the sum of human knowledge around the world in milliseconds. We use it to trap the sun in solar panels and to shield us from the elements in skyscrapers that touch the clouds. Think about the material for a second. It is made from the most common thing on Earth, sand, yet we have bent it to our will so completely that we have literally restructured our lives around it. We created a material that gives us sight where we were once blind. We used it to look at the stars, to look inside our own bodies, and to connect every corner of the planet. The next time you look through a window, or tap on a screen, remember, you aren't just looking at glass. You are looking at a 10,000-year-old accident that became the lens through which we view reality. If we hadn't figured out how to melt the sand, we would be living in a much smaller, much dimmer, and far more isolated world. So, here is the question. If this simple, fragile, transparent material defined our path from the Bronze Age to the Information Age, what happens when we finally replace it? What is the next glass, and how will it change the way we see the universe?